Hello, my name is James Halsey, and today I'm going to be presenting the final project plan, part 4, implementing remote access. So today I'm going to be showing you how to do three things. It's obviously a short narrated video, but I'm going to show how to initialize remote connection, how to access the intranet site, and how to use remote desktop protocol on one of the Windows servers. So before we jump into it real quick, let's go over the logical network. I have the network exactly like this, but with two changes. Instead of RT1 local, I used pfSense firewall. This was to use a VPN, things like that to make remote desktop connection easier. And then PC1 is outside of the vLocal network. It's in a separate network just to simulate working from home, things like that. So so here are the virtual machines. As I've said, I ran the logical network the exact same way, but pfSense instead of firewall, or instead of RT1 local. And then with the actual Ethernet and where it's connected to, the network adapter is currently connected to VINTO0. It's just going to take a second to load. But that just shows that it's on a separate network. It's not in the actual VLAN that the other ones are in. So how are we going to, to show you how to access the site, as I said earlier, we used pfSense to create a firewall, or not to create a firewall, to create a VPN. And with that, it's going to make accessing remote desktop protocol significantly easier. And it will also allow us to access our intranet site. So as you saw earlier, we cannot possibly use the intranet site. It just doesn't connect. But once we connect to the VPN, that is actually directly through pfSense firewall. You can see we have access to the intranet site. That's not it though. We also have to initialize remote desktop protocol. So how we'll do that from the client PC is you just look up remote desktop connection. What we'll do is enter the IP address. This is the IP address of DC01 or DC1. That's what we used earlier to actually configure the firewall on pfSense. Use it through a web application. It's much easier than command line interface and actually configuring it that way. So using the graphical user interface is just much easier, and that's exactly what we did to help set up the VPN, which will then help our remote desktop connection. So it's just going to take a second here. It usually does take a second. It's a virtual machine running inside of another virtual machine, so it does take a little bit to load. Yes, confirm that. So now we are actually in the DC1 machine. Here's another example of the intranet website that we need access to. And then obviously, as I said earlier, I was setting it up using the VPN Sense firewall, or sorry, the pfSense firewall. And then you have access to everything else that you'll need, server manager, local tools, things like that. So today I've showed you how to initialize a remote connection, how to access the intranet site both on the client and the server. And then I've also showed you how to use remote desktop protocol on one of the Windows Server systems as requested. So yeah, that is my final project presentation. Thank you very much for listening.